Minnesota has been ranked as the second most bike-friendly state in the nation, behind the state of Washington. And Minneapolis is considered by some to be the best biking city in the country, even better than Portland. This rise in biking by people of all ages is paying health and economic benefits to everyone in the state. How did our cold northern state achieve this status? It was because of a lot of work by individuals and organizations in both the public and private sector. We'll talk about how that happened and the health benefits of biking on today's episode of A Public Health Journal. Please stay tuned.
Welcome to A Public Health Journal, a program that explores public health issues facing our society today and tomorrow. The host of the show is Dr. Ed Ellinger, Commissioner of Health for the state of Minnesota. A Public Health Journal is sponsored by the Minnesota Department of Health and the Hennepin County Human Services and Public Health Department, all working together towards the goal of healthy people living in healthy communities.
Welcome to A Public Health Journal. Today we're going to look at biking in Minnesota and how we became a hotbed for biking in such a cold climate. We'll also be looking at some of the health benefits of biking and what's being done to get even more people biking. Joining me in this conversation are Liz Walton, landscape architect in the Minnesota Department of Transportation's Bicycle and Pedestrian Section, and Dorian Grilley, Executive Director of the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. Liz, Dorian, welcome to our program.
Nice to be here.
And I understand both of you are landscape architects. How did landscape architects get involved in biking? Dorian.
Well, I've always loved bicycling, and I bicycled when I was a student at the University of Minnesota and just kept doing it, and then decided that rather than being a landscape architect, I would pursue the profession of making work for landscape architects. Yeah. So I went the planning route and then decided to be a bike advocate.
Okay. Liz, how about you?
Well, landscape architects learn a lot of different things, so they can do an awful lot. So various things, and bicycling is one aspect of planning that is really something that fits right in that. In fact, and Dorian and I, both landscape architects, met bicycling, in fact, years ago. So.
Good. All right, well, in my introduction, I talked about Minnesota being bike-friendly, and we have a little slide here that shows sort of the Minnesota ranking. And what does it mean to be bike-friendly, first of all, and then how did we get to have that ranking above Massachusetts and Colorado and Oregon?
The ranking is done by the League of American Bicyclists, and they rank a state based on what they call, they rank a state and communities on what they call the 5 E's. One is engineering, so you have to have great facilities, but you also have to have an education program, an encouragement or promotion program. You need to get the police involved in an enforcement program, and you need to evaluate and include goals in your planning documents. So that's how we got there. Minnesota's really strong in all those areas, but as most people know, we're really strong in the engineering area.
What do you mean by engineering, Liz?
Engineering is a lot of the bike facilities, the bike lanes, the bike trails or paths. So it's those kinds of facilities that are out there for people to use. So,
and you're in the Department of Transportation. I mean, I think most people say, well, transportation is about trucks and cars and roads. When did biking become part of the Department of Transportation's portfolio?
We used to be the highway department, and some number of years ago we actually became the transportation department, which really meant we looked at all the different modes. So biking really is a viable and exciting way for transportation. So bicycling is definitely part of the transportation department's interest.
And I know when they look at bicycle-friendly community, do they think about the number of people who are using it in addition to sort of the infrastructure that's there, or is it mostly the educational, engineering, evaluation, or does numbers?
Numbers do make a big difference. Minneapolis is ranked as a very high bike-friendly community because they have one of the highest mode shares or percentage of people bicycling to work. So numbers do make a big difference, and I think they probably make a big difference to you public health officials too.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that. But I also know there's like you have a slide that shows 4 different types of bikers who transport. Tell us a little bit about that, and we have a slide that shows that.
Well, that slide shows that throughout the world and the country here, surveys have shown that 1% of bicyclists are basically strong and fearless and will ride anytime, anywhere. Those are the people you see riding in downtown Minneapolis in the middle of winter. 6 or 7% are enthused and confident and will ride when they have the facilities and maybe have a little education on how to use those facilities. But the population that we're most concerned with is that 60% that are interested but concerned. They'd like to bike more. They're afraid. They don't have the knowledge on how to ride on the streets, and that's one of the targets that we're very interested in helping.
Have these numbers changed over the years? Certainly when I was growing up, the kids biked, and very few adults biked. And now now it's like everybody seems to be biking, and so the lot more numbers are biking. Have these numbers changed in terms of percentages over the years?
Yes, they have changed a lot. Bicycling in the Twin Cities has grown by 52% since 2007. So there is a big change, and I think you can probably guess that the economy, when gasoline hit $4 a gallon, the bike dealers had their best years ever in 2008. But young people are also having a challenging time finding work, so there's economic reasons. There's also environmental reasons. I think a lot more people are trying to be more sensitive and use less oil.
And that 32% of not a chance, is that getting smaller?
That, I don't really know, but I think it probably will slowly get smaller. But as we target that 60%, get more and more people, make it more the norm.
Well, in health, we always think there's about a third of the people who are really engaged in being healthy, and a third of the people who just don't want to get engaged in anything. And then there's a third sort of in the middle that can go either direction, and we really look at that third. I'm hoping that you're working to have that more than just 6 or 7% that are really engaged, that you actually have that third and then work on the other third. I assume that's sort of what you're trying to do.
Yep. That's the whole idea of the bicycle-friendly program, to get businesses and communities engaged in education and promotion and planning so they can get more people bicycling more often.
To inspire and to encourage them, the more that these communities embrace that idea of being bike friendly, it does bring people out. There is safety in numbers. The more people see people biking, the more they get inspired to bike. So there really
So how does the Department of Transportation, you're dealing with bicycles now, how does that fit in your mission?
Well, again, we are the transportation department, so we call ourselves the multimodal agency, with the idea that there are all kinds of modes, whether it's transit, biking, walking, a car. So it really is a key component of what our mission is as the agency to promote transportation. So biking is a really, really fun way to get around. It's very, when we came here, we came by car, and boy, we were stuck in traffic where we were both saying, if we were on our bikes, we would just be flying through. So it's a great way to get where you need to go, whether it's for recreation, but certainly for transportation.
But you also, I know your commissioner talks a lot about the fact that the lead thing that you're trying to do is improve the quality of life.
Yes.
How does biking improve the quality of life in Minnesota?
Biking is a great way for people individually to be healthy. It's fun, and the more that communities have bicycling, those are the kinds of communities where they bring biking and those kinds of things bring a vitality to a community, where those are the kinds of communities that show up on the lists of great places to live. So it's just one aspect that it brings great social capital. You're approachable on a bike. It's a friendly way to get around. You actually meet people on your bike where you wouldn't necessarily roll down your car window and meet people the way you do on a bike. So bicycling really does add one great element to that whole quality of life. It really is a great social way to get around in a healthy way, so it brings a vitality to a community.
Right. Well, I want to talk about some of the specific activities that are going on and some of the partners, but we need to take a little break.
Okay, great.
We'll be back right after this message.
Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw a ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, swap us next Sunday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome back. We're talking about bicycling in Minnesota with Liz Walton from the Minnesota Department of Transportation and Dorian Grilley from the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. And Dorian, what is the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota? We talked a little bit about the Department of Transportation and their involvement, but what's the organization that you're engaged with?
Well, the Bicycle Alliance is a Minnesota nonprofit organization that was formed about 4 years ago. We put together a steering committee that involved the bike industry and bicycle advocates and decided that a couple things were missing in Minnesota, and that was a group really advocating for bicycling at the state level. There were some community organizations, but the thing that was missing the most, we thought, was bike education. Bike education was a state program that went away with one of the recessions in the early 1990s. And we thought we'd try and replace that with a network of cycling instructors that are volunteers in school districts and community ed programs and affiliated with bike shops, with the simple goal of more people, more bikes, more often.
Mm-hmm. So Minnesota has reached the state of being a bike-friendly place. How did that happen? Why Minnesota? What brought people together in such large numbers with such passion, with such interest in getting people to bike? And as I'm sure everybody has noticed, we've got bike lanes where they never were before. We've got bicycle trails that are being created. We got more people out biking than we've ever seen before. What happened?
Well, I think a lot of things happened all at once, and it started in the 1970s, I think. Related to that energy crisis in the 1970s, people thought, well, the state should be involved in promoting bicycling, and also the state started getting involved in purchasing abandoned railroad grades. So we started this great network of trails, and that, I think, inspired a lot of people. And that has evolved into the city of Minneapolis developing great bicycling networks and other communities throughout Minnesota.
Now, well, that's one of those things is the Mississippi River Trail. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that for a little while, because this seems to be sort of a signature trail and getting a lot of attention. So let's talk about it. What is the Mississippi River Trail?
It's a continuous bike route that is on both roads and trails or paths, so it's on-road and off-road. And it starts at Itasca State Park, so right where the Mississippi River, the headwaters, and it winds its way along the river to the Iowa border, where it actually connects then into the national Mississippi River Trail, which winds away along the river right down to the Gulf. So it's part of a national network, but it's mostly on roads. It's maybe 15% off-road, but we incorporate 3 state trails, many local trails, and it's something that MnDOT has convened, and we've been organizing the planning and implementation effort, but it's a huge partnership because we go through about 70 communities. We're in more than 20 counties, 88 townships. We're on every kind of road you can imagine. We go through state parks and national parks. So it's a huge partnership between MnDOT and all these communities that are along the river. So it's
so how do you develop those partnerships? Because I know just trying to get things developed in the Twin Cities, when you're going through private property, people say, don't want that, and who's responsible for upkeep and all of those kinds of things. What are some of the issues that evolved when you were trying to put together this really long trail?
Well, I think it's the Mississippi River really is sort of that glue, and I think people are excited to celebrate in their communities the idea that they have the river, and really almost a new identity of, we're a bicycling community along the river. And so it brings the biking and the river are the 2 great things that bring people together, and they see that we're connecting cities, we're connecting from the headwaters. You can think of Bemidji being connected to Winona, and even Winona and Bemidji being connected to Louisiana. And so it really has this wonderful new way to look at things, that now we have this fantastic connection and a great opportunity to learn about the stories of the river and understand how to get around and really have a great adventure.
So how did the funding come to get it started, and then who maintains this trail?
Well, the great thing is that, again, it's taking existing roads and existing trails, so things that are already built, facilities that are built and already maintained. And what it does is sort of create something from nothing. We've created taken these pieces that are now the Mississippi River Trail. And so we've worked again to incorporate pieces that are already there, and so it's something that's ride ready, and so it's ready to go. Okay. That's the exciting part.
But it's on some existing roads, and so that always brings up the issue of safety.
It does.
And I think, looking at the chart of the kinds of riders, people who are kind of fearless and they'll go anywhere, but others say, I'm a little nervous, I don't want to get hit by a car, because I understand you've been hit by a car while you're biking. So how do you deal with the safety issues on that kind of long trail where you're actually using some roads?
Well, the route is actually on two sides of the river, and really by the time you're in Minnesota, we have over 800 miles of the route. And there is something for everyone. If you were to ride the whole route from Itasca right to the Iowa border, you'd want to be a bicyclist that's experienced and comfortable riding with traffic, but we incorporate the Paul Bunyan State Trail, the Heartland State Trail, the Cuyuna Rex State Trail. So we incorporate, in the Twin Cities, we have a lot of segments that are off-road. So there is something for everyone, so families can go out and ride part of the river. Anyone, there is something for everyone. The whole route, if you were to ride it, you'd want to be an experienced cyclist. But there's a great way to get out on the river with kids and with families. So we really looked to create something for all kinds.
So now trails like this, and you mentioned a variety of other trails that this connects with, and others throughout the state. Are they being used? And how do you evaluate that? And are they attracting people to come as tourists, and are they attracting people to come here as residents?
I believe the Mississippi River Trail is one of the greatest ideas that's being pursued in the country right now. Cities in Europe have pursued the idea of linking bicycle-friendly communities with a bike route, so people can ride from town to town. But the idea that the communities internally are educating their residents on bicycling and bike safety, and educating motorists that be aware more people are going to be riding on the streets. So I think that enhances bike safety significantly. And I think the Mississippi River Trail is going to be an internationally significant idea. The Mississippi River is significant already. So the idea of linking bike-friendly communities with a bike route, I think is going to be a good one.
Yeah, well, I was on a previous show, I was talking with Commissioner Landwehr, who said people come to Minnesota because they like its environment, they like the natural resources. I suspect people are coming here because they like biking, and I suspect if we could have the reputation that we're bicycle friendly, you're going to be attracting some people who want to bike, particularly some healthy people.
Yeah.
Right.
And we saw the idea of it's great. I mean, again, we go through over 70 cities, and it's wonderful to think of all these cities dotted along the river with the idea that more and more are becoming bike friendly. And if MnDOT's attitude is, if it's a good place for people who live in a community, if it's good for them to bike, it's going to be just as good and inviting to those coming from elsewhere.
Right.
So we're excited about that.
Well, I want to talk about some of the challenges that you have to face in getting people to bike, but we need to take another little break. We'll be back right after this message. Welcome back. We're talking about bicycling in Minnesota with Liz Walton from the Minnesota Department of Transportation and Dorian Grilley from the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. Liz, one of the things I know that the health department has been engaged with throughout the state is a complete streets concept, trying to get more people to bike and walk and have the streets safe to do that. Could you explain a little bit about what it means by being complete streets?
Complete streets is the idea of looking at the roadway from the outside in, where how do you incorporate walking, biking, transit, all the different modes that a street could or should include. Not every street is going to include every one of those, but we want to make sure that we look at how do all those modes fit into the road if it's possible, or look for ways for people in all those modes to get along through, to move along through communities.
Are there particularly target areas, like if I go near schools, I think, we need a complete street near schools because we want kids to bike to school and walk to school, and our own businesses, we would like people to bike to work. Are there sort of targeted areas for trying to do complete streets work?
Well, I think certainly through the Safe Routes to Schools program, which is a program that many people may know about, which helps get people, the kids, biking and walking to school. That's certainly a program that really helps tie in nicely to the Complete Streets attitude to get kids there. There are all kinds of other programs that that through the things the Bike Alliance is doing to help really encourage that kind of activity. Yeah.
Dorian, what are some of the barriers that you see as the Bicycle Alliance of, why don't people bike to work more often? Why don't people bike to the grocery store? Why don't they, bike for recreational? Well, what are some of the barriers that you're seeing?
Well, I think some of the barriers...
And how do you bike in cold weather?
Yeah.
I've been told there's no bad biking weather, just bad clothing.
Right. Most Minnesotans are quite capable of dressing for walking in the cold weather, or cross-country skiing or downhill skiing in the cold weather. It's not much different for bicycling. And you can get all sorts of equipment. Lights have become, technology has improved so much that lights are very affordable, so you can ride before and after work when it's dark. But the clothing is an easy accessory that you can pick up at almost any outdoor store or even Target.
So what about people biking to work? Why don't more people bike to work?
Well, I think that's a barrier of both time and facilities, but I think it's also a barrier of education. People are just not, or the majority of people are just not comfortable bicycling on the street, and we don't have trails that go from people's houses to their offices. So I think the idea that we need to educate people more on bicycling on the street, and that they need to act and be treated like the drivers of vehicles, is the most safe way to ride on the streets. I think we'll see an increase in bicycling and an increase in bike safety. Minneapolis has proved that more bicyclists on the street make it safer, simply because more bicyclists. The number of bicyclists in Minneapolis has gone up significantly, and the crash rate has stayed about the same. So people are more aware, people look for bicyclists, and the bicyclists are more and more of them are obeying the rules of the road and acting like the drivers of vehicles, which is what they should do.
Well, I noticed that as I was biking to work when the Midway Greenway got started, and that came through a safe way to bike, the number of people who biked increased like 300% within days.
Yeah.
I mean, is it a matter of just feeling safe and feeling like, all right, this is an easy way to go, as opposed to having to dodge unsafe traffic?
I think one of the things is that the Midtown Greenway is actually the most efficient way to get from the river to uptown. It's much more efficient than driving on Lake Street. You can get there faster. So that's a real incentive. And as traffic, as Liz mentioned, as traffic congestion increases, bicycling is going to become an alternative for more and more people. I live in Matamidi and can get to downtown St. Paul about the same speed as a bus. And with construction on 35E right now, I can get there a lot faster than a car.
Yeah. So how does bicycling fit in with improving the environment? I know if we get more cars off the road, there are less greenhouse gases. Are there some, the environmental health issues, is that part of what is driving MnDOT's involvement?
Oh, I think that there are so many things. We want to have a strong partnership with all the different groups, like the Department of Health, the DNR. We all see that there are so many opportunities. So it isn't just health, it isn't just congestion. We just know that we're all in this together, and so we really are seeing it as certainly congestion and with gas prices and so on. But it is a clean and it's a fun way to get around. So it is just one of our modes that we really want to promote.
Yeah. Well, I know parents influence their kids a lot, but also kids influence, who's influencing whom as when it comes to biking? Are the kids wanting to bike and getting their parents involved, or parents want to bike and getting their kids involved, or is it a combination?
I think it's a little of both, or it's getting to be a lot of both. I think a lot of kids are learning the reasons. They're learning that the epidemic of obesity and the disease related to physical inactivity in their health classes in school, and are realizing that bicycling can be fun and a great way to get around. But there's also a perception that bicyclists are second-class citizens and second-class road users, and we all need to work really, really hard to remove those perceptions.
Is there a difference in biking by cultural groups and by income levels?
Yes,
Yeah.
there really is. Right now, I think the majority is white and a higher income level. But there are also, the Bicycle Alliance did a project with Project Homeless Connect, where we helped homeless people repair their bikes and at least get them safe so they can use them on the streets. So there's certainly a lot of homeless people that are using.
Yeah,
But-
well, I bring that up
Yeah.
just as in sort of closing, because disparities are a huge issue in our state
Yeah.
from health, and this is one where actually we could do something. It's cheap, it's easy to do, it can be done by everybody, but it takes some education.
I think that's the key, is that it isn't expensive. It's not a lot to invest necessarily, and you can get around with a bike. So it is a nice entree for transportation.
Well, we just scratched the surface of this topic, obviously, in this show. But thank you for being with us. And I'm gonna head up to that Itasca, I think, and
Good.
start from there. I don't know if
Good.
I'll be able to bike all the way down to
No,
the
me
Iowa
too.
border, but good. Well, thanks for being with us.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'll be back with a closing comment right after this message.
This is one amazing truffula tree. Can you imagine a place where these grow everywhere? Yes, it's called the forest, a magical place to enjoy with your family. So discover the forest and explore all the wonder that's there. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
In the movie The Field of Dreams, the now classic line was heard, quote, "If you build it, they will come," end quote. People came to the ball field that was created because of an innate connection between Americans and baseball, a connection that nourishes both the body and the spirit. The same thing is occurring in the world of bicycling. As bicycle lanes and trails are built, people are coming, and they are coming in large numbers. And they are coming because bicycling, like baseball, has an innate connection to our being that nourishes both the body and the spirit. But it does much more than that. It enhances the environment. It reduces healthcare costs. It stabilizes neighborhoods and rejuvenates cities. It increases productivity. It attracts businesses, and it builds community. Policymakers are realizing that investing in projects that make biking safer and more convenient is not just an investment that benefits the cyclists. It's an investment in our better society. And it is an investment that benefits all of us. It is a public health investment that'll pay dividends now and far into the future. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you can join us again next time on A Public Health Journal.